Hi, I'm Marie Hejl. Welcome to Cooking with Marie. Today we're going to be making some of my favorite appetizers. And these appetizers can be served the way I like to do it, kind of like a tapas, Spanish tapas style meal where you just have a bunch of different appetizers to try and share. Or you can always serve them as appetizers before a formal dinner party or a casual dinner party, or maybe if you just need to bring appetizers to a potluck. So these can be used in a variety of scenarios, and they're all so easy and taste great. So let's get started. The first one we're going to make is my absolute favorite appetizer, and they are my lump crab cakes. The first ingredient you'll need is some fresh green onions, and I have these all nicely washed and dried. And I've got about just one bunch here, and what you're going to need is about 2 tablespoons of green onions. And you're only going to want to use the green part. Now I'm going to give it one just to get kind of the brownish ends off and make it all nice and even. Get one, cut one a little bit off there, and then we'll just cut these into some nice small pieces. There, this is great. Now I do like my onions very nice and small, so I'm going to mince that a little bit more. Green onions give it that nice kind of bite, some flavor, onion flavor, without being too overly onion, without really overwhelming you with the onion flavor and muting the wonderful crab meat flavor. So these are looking great. Love this knife, it's nice and sharp. Okay. So let's go ahead, just for the sake of measuring, we'll go ahead and measure and see about how much we have here, just so you can get an idea. There's about 1 tablespoon. Go ahead and put that in a big bowl. And look at that. Almost exactly 2 tablespoons. And if I was measuring accurately, I think we'd have exactly 2 tablespoons. So that shows you about how often I make these. I can tell from just looking at it about how much we need. So we've got 2 tablespoons of green onions there, which is great. And let's say in my bunch I had 6 green onions. So 6 green onions should work, and you just again use the green parts. You can save these white parts. They're great if you want to use them, to garnish a salad or garnish the crab cakes. So there's no reason to throw these away. We're going to save these possibly for later. Put those over there. The next thing we're going to chop up is some fresh basil, and I've also washed that already, and we're going to try to grab some of these nice big leaves, and we're going to use 1 tablespoon of basil. Now if you can't find basil, you can use parsley or another of your favorite herbs. I really like to use lemon basil, but the store was out, and they've been out a couple times lately, so I just go with the regular basil. You could use dill, you could use, there's a variety, just kind of to get some more green color and nice fresh herb flavor in there. Definitely use fresh though, that's the key point there. Looks great. Oh, I just love the smell of basil. We're actually using it in 2 different appetizers today, so yay to basil. Okay, great. And just try to keep out those small stem pieces, you don't need those. And then we'll just go through that one more time. Because what happens is when you do this, you end up with these long strips. So, which is fine, but for crab cakes, you want to go ahead and have them nice and small. And knowing me, you only need 1 tablespoon of basil, but me personally, I wouldn't mind overdoing the basil. I really like that flavor. Okay. And lemon basil is also a really great herb to use, which is what I try to use if it's in stock. Because it has that kind of citrus flavor, and of course citrus, lemon, and that sort of thing always goes very well with seafood. So we've got about 1 tablespoon of basil there. We're just going to add that in with the green onions. And again, this is one of my favorite dishes because look at this, we're just using 1 bowl. How easy is that? Okay, so we are done with our chopping for now. Let's move on to the next ingredients, which is basically just measuring out tablespoons. So first, I don't like my crab cakes with a lot of filler. By filler, I mean breadcrumbs or some kind of crackers or something like that. So I try to use just 2 tablespoons for 1 pound of crab meat. You could use a little bit more, a little bit less. depending on your preference, but I try to use about 2 tablespoons. I'm just going to measure that off. Again, we're not trying to be real precise here, just trying to make this quickly. Now we're going to use some Parmesan cheese, and this is grated. You don't want to use shredded because you want that, to combine really well with the crab meat. So we're going to use 3 tablespoons of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. It gives it a nice salty flavor and goes great. So there we've got that. The next is 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. And if you wanted to try to go a little bit lighter on this dish, I've used light mayonnaise in it before. You can't tell the difference at all. And so that'll just reduce the fat a little bit, and I love that. So obviously not measuring here real specific. I'm just kind of putting in at what I think is about 3 tablespoons. And I could add more if I needed, but I think that's going to be plenty. Okay, and the last ingredient, or actually 2 more ingredients before the crab, we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning, and that is what gives these crab cakes such great flavor. So, and this is a ½ teaspoon, so I'm going to put 2 of these in, and you really want to be careful here not to overdo the Old Bay seasoning because it is very salty, and you do not want to oversalt your crab cakes because crab itself can be very salty. And that is why, in addition to not using too much seasoning, we're not going to add any extra salt either. So we've got all that together. Let's see, the last thing is the egg. 1 large egg. Remember, if a recipe says to use an egg, you always want to go with a large egg. That's just the standard. See if I can get another, dry my hands on. Go ahead and whisk this together real quick. Just kind of make sure that mixture is nice and combined. Everything's combined together. This is looking perfect. And so what you have here is this wonderful mixture that we're going to just add the crab to. What you should add is some fresh ground pepper. There we go. Why not? All right, now for the last ingredient, like I said, is the crab itself. Now with the crab meat, I just got this at my fish market. Like I said, it's about 1 pound. And you don't want to wash your crab meat because you'll lose so much of the good flavor. But I do kind of run my hands through it like this because occasionally, although they are usually really good at picking the crab, you'll find a shell in there. And that's really not something that's very appetizing if you're eating this wonderful crab cake and you bite into a shell. So go ahead and just kind of sift through it with your hands and make sure you don't feel anything hard in there, whether it's some piece of a shell or something like that. See how we have this little piece of shell in there? This is the kind of thing that you want to watch out for. So we'll dispose of that. A little bit more. Oop, felt another piece. There it is. That one's just a little bit hard, so I'm going to throw that one out. All right. There's another one. See that shell? You got to be careful. That's why we're going through these. But again, you don't want to wash it because you don't want to lose that wonderful, wonderful crab flavor. Okay, this feels good. Now, that's done. And we are simply going to just mix that with the mixture. And as you can see, this is very, there's a variety of different kinds of crab cakes. Some are very heavily, deep fried, and they've got this really thick, hard crust that you've got to basically use a knife to eat.